Hi and welcome. So today I want to share with you how emotional eating is really about unmet needs and how we can go about really meeting those needs and resolving this pattern. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. And so I wanted to share this with you because I think, a lot of the times when we emotionally eat and we're in this pattern of trying to figure out why we're so out of control with food, we feel out of control in our body, we don't realize that this feeling out of control is about needs, and certain needs are not being met. And, we just see the emotional eating and we're trying to get a handle on it. And we might think, if I find the perfect diet or I shrink my stomach or I do the right surgery or I take the right pill, I'm going to just stop this obsession with food. But that obsession with food is really something that's calling out to us, telling us that there are deeper needs that have not been met. And, we think that if we eat, and the way our brain has been sort of programmed is that if we eat the food, somehow that's filling this void, that numbness, that need, that craving we have. And so that's because that's all we know. That's how we learn to survive. Because emotional eating is a coping mechanism. It's a pattern that helps us to, it comes up whenever we feel distress or discomfort or uncomfortable emotions. And it's a way for us to cope and to feel okay, to sort of, regulate our nervous system, to get back to some state of calm or to regulate our mood. It's not meeting our deeper needs and it's not getting to the root, but it's a temporary Band-Aid fix. And so how do we even get here? So the pattern that I see with clients, and it might not seem obvious to you, is that, when you're younger, or at some point you didn't have your needs met and you had to figure out a way to be okay. So as children, we need our parents and caregivers to really help us move through any discomfort, uncomfortable emotions, to guide us, to hold space for us. And for most of the population, most of us, and especially if you're an emotional eater, this was most likely not the case. Your parents couldn't show up for you and hold that space for you. And, they didn't have that model to them. And so it just went on after generation and generation until you today. And, a lot of the times when we're in a lot of discomfort and pain, we seek out solutions, and we have so many more outlets to find solutions these days. So there's that pattern that comes up, and, a lot of the times with clients, they can't pinpoint the pattern and it doesn't seem connected to their emotional eating. It's not like they're sitting at 5 years old eating all the candy and the cakes and they're like, yeah, I feel great. It doesn't happen so obviously for most of my clients. And that's why when we do the deeper work, we get to those roots. So emotional eating is about these unmet needs. And while I could sit here and tell you, you need to be seen, heard, and validated, there's no way for you to tangibly give that to yourself. All of the solutions on the surface that we think of in our conscious mind, in our present self, is not going to meet those deeper needs. We actually need to get into the body. And even beyond that, there are other needs that we have to have met along this emotional eating journey. And so what I see with clients, is that, they create this pattern from this age, and then we add on, the diet mentality, and we're doing the diets to try to control our body and food because we feel out of control. We're trying to control our body to look a certain way because we feel that's going to give us some level of love and acceptance and validation. And all of these things, they become mixed up. So we don't have our true needs met. We're trying to use these Band-Aid solutions, the diets, and the, trying to fit into a certain box to have that met. And it becomes really ingrained and it becomes this deep sort of pattern. And once you're in adulthood and even, you're in your 50s or your 40s, whatever it is, this pattern has been in you for decades now. And so it doesn't seem obvious anymore. It's not like, oh, this A plus B plus C, this happened and this is where I'm at. And so our needs get really messed up, you could say. They get really mixed up. It's really hard to see what our needs are because now we don't know how to meet our needs. We're trying our best to get them met, and it's usually in a dysfunctional way. And so a lot of the times my clients are people pleasers. They don't know how to advocate for themselves. They don't know how to speak up for themselves. They have lost touch with their emotions, with their body, with food, all of these things that they're trying to get a handle on. And so these are needs that we need to start step by step, creating a new way forward. And so how do we meet these needs? So it would seem that let's go back and see, hear, and validate ourselves, but it's not as simple as that. We have to relearn a new way of being with ourselves, and we have to relearn a new way of having compassion and kindness to ourselves with the food we eat, with our body, and with our emotions. And so this is no longer just about, unmet needs around discomfort. It's about now we've created this dysfunctional relationship with food and our body, and we need to unpack that. And this is why inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program, there are 3 key main phases. We learn about true nourishment, body acceptance, and emotional wellness. And not only learn about them, but embody and reconnect back to these areas so that we're meeting our deeper needs. So that we're no longer, craving food or doing all of these things to try to feel okay. We're actually genuinely meeting our needs. And that registers in our body as sort of this deeper release and ease and confidence. We're no longer just thinking how we should be around food, or, I should be okay with my body, or, that happened so long ago, I shouldn't look at that emotionally. We're looking at everything that's happening. And so this is a process. And so how do we meet those deeper needs? Well, it's going to be in these 3 main areas that I see for emotional eaters. It's not just about the emotions or the food or the body. It's all of these things combined. And sometimes when we take one layer off, we see the other layer. So, I've had clients that we're moving through, they might think they know the best for their nutrition and the way they're eating, but they're disconnected from food. They still have that diet mentality creeping in, and it's because they've lost touch with what feels good in their body, because they were just chasing something externally. And usually when we have this emotional eating pattern, we're looking to something outside of us to tell us how we feel. It's always good to have guidance, but we need to also know how to check in with our own bodies to know that something resonates and feels good. So that is how we learn discernment. And it's not to say that all of the answers are in you or in another person. It's sort of like this co-creative effect. And that's how I work with clients. So when we're looking at true nourishment to meet your specific needs, there are guidelines on learning about your digestion, learning the fact that our digestion impacts our mood. And when our mood is low, it triggers emotional eating. When we don't nourish our bodies deeply, that triggers obsessive thinking about food and discerning true from emotional hunger. And it's tangibly looking at your body. You're going to figure out in your own body with the guidance, what is going on for you. Are you emotionally hungry versus truly hungry? When you eat a certain food, how does it feel in your body? How do you digest it? And what's going on around you that might be making digestion not go well? And so we're looking at these key things, and there are guidelines and there are patterns that I've seen with other clients that we incorporate. Everything is done for you to check in and see what feels good, because we don't check in with ourselves. We check in with, the external thing that says we should feel good with X, Y, and Z. And we need to check in with our bodies. Of course, we could have the best, organic fruits and veggies, and some of them might not feel good in our body. But that's not to say we shouldn't incorporate them. We're just really learning about our bodies. And of course, there are guidelines to help us sort of collapse that timeline, so we're not forever searching. The second area that's going to be really important is about body acceptance. And this is where we're learning about our body. We all need to sleep. We need movement. We have different energy levels. It's going to be unique to us, and we need to look at our patterns, and we need to see how the way we're talking to ourselves and pushing ourselves and stressing ourselves out maybe is not the best for our body and the type of movement that it needs. And so we can also see patterns here. We can see how one thing is connected to another. And when we start honoring our body, we have that body acceptance. So this is the baseline where we can create transformation. We can start seeing how we've been talking to our body, the things we've been doing to create the body that we're in, and how our body is not necessarily tied into our worth. Our worth is something so much deeper, and that if we have a certain body, it doesn't automatically mean we're going to be loved and accepted. We're also looking at understanding the body, nourishing the body in terms of rest and movement and rituals so that we have deep rest. And so this is going to be really important to meet those physical needs of the body, to move away from critical thoughts and criticizing our body, because that criticism is not meeting our need. It's just telling us we aren't good enough. When we drop into the deeper needs of the body, we'll no longer sort of need to be criticizing ourselves, because we'll understand how our body is functioning and unique to each of us. The third area is around emotional wellness. So this is where we can actually touch in and get to the roots of this emotional eating coping mechanism, the pattern, the emotions that are under it, and meet those needs of releasing that emotion, but the deeper needs of what we needed, and give that to ourselves. We're doing this on a body level. This is with the unresolved events that created this pattern, the traumas, if you will, which can be things that we don't think are traumas. So they're on a spectrum from small to big, and we're getting in there and meeting those needs. And when we meet those needs, because usually what happens when those needs aren't met, we need to create a layer to help us feel okay. And that's where the food comes in and the emotional eating. And this kind of helps to, us to see how that pattern was created, but we're also learning a new way to connect into food and our body, because we've gone after the other ways of what are they telling us to be with our food and our body? What does the diet say? What does this say? And here we can meet those truer needs. We can meet those deeper needs emotionally, but the next steps forward, creating that structure that's going to anchor that. So creating that space for ourselves. So this is how we meet those deeper needs, and we dissolve the emotional eating pattern. And the needs are done in these different ways where we're really connecting to us and what we need. I can sit here and tell you, do this, this, and this, but it's how it feels to you. So the part that's missing, you need to check in with yourself and see how it feels, to see, maybe what resistance you have, what deeper patterns and emotions that you're holding onto. And this is how we get to those deeper needs, and then the coping mechanism will disappear, because we create coping mechanisms when we couldn't meet those needs. They weren't available to us, and now we're meeting those needs, and so this pattern will disappear. So let me know if you have any questions about what I've shared. If this is resonating with you, I'd love for you to check out the Emotional Eating Evolution program. So this is my step-by-step process with lots of support, the step-by-step methodology. There is accountability and coaching and in-depth meditations to help you move through and resolve this pattern to meet all those needs. So I'll leave the link below. And also, if you are ready and committed to move past your emotional eating, you can also book in an emotional eating, a clarity call. So on this call, we find out more about you, what your goals are, and how we can support you in the program. So I'll leave that link below as well. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. And I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.